Wholeness, everyone, and welcome to another edition of We Meditate. I am your host, Ahmad Brown, and today we will be discussing the third eye chakra, Anja, the third eye chakra called Anja. Um, Talking about it real quick for an intro. As we all know, the third eye is like the most popular chakra. It's always in music, and you always know about it with the Eye of Horus, and people who always consider themselves conscious beings, things of that nature, always speak of this third eye. Um, Also, the symbology of the third eye is very popular. If you ever meet a Hindu person, they may show you, the third eye symbol, things of that nature. Um, the three with the kind of S attached to it type of thing. Nevertheless, in popular culture, the third eye seems to be the one chakra that everyone is aware of, no matter what religion or creed or lack thereof. But the third eye is essentially, one of the seven, which are all equally important. But the third eye actually is the most common because it actually deals directly with the mind. It deals directly with the mind. And so in our postmodern age, we are a very mental, intellectual, type of society. So it's very, what is the word here? It's very easy to see why everybody's attracted to that because everybody wants to be smart. And so dealing with the third eye, we're talking about wisdom. The third eye essentially is the coolest one, especially when you can do all the little pictures with third eyes on it and stuff like that, and have light rays beaming out of it. It's always just a cool thing. In appreciation to that, I want to make sure I cover the third eye, as extensively as I can within a condensed amount of time anyway, to show, again, the mythology, some of the scientific implications, and as well as some practical application, that we could do for activating or realizing this particular consciousness within our body so we can improve our wisdom capabilities. So getting right into it, talking about the third eye chakra, I will deal with the planetary connection first. The planetary connection, again, a astrological connection, if you will, for the great macrocosm, the great outside. The third eye chakra actually deals with the planet Neptune. And the planet Neptune is, again, the second furthest planet in the Milky Way galaxy, just as the third eye chakra is the second farthest chakra, or the second highest chakra in our bodily system. So again, that correspondence is present. And so the planet Neptune, though, it's for people who are out there, consider themselves out there. That's always such a negative connotation, or a connotation for people who are like spaced out, people are out of touch with reality. However, it's not just, a deviant, attribute for people. It's actually a state of being for people who've actually gone so far in their consciousness that they've reached such a high state in their being, to where they have just a great sense of spirituality. Conversely, the only way for someone to even get out there, so to speak, is actually they have to go deep within in meditation. It's an inverse relationship, and so the deeper that you go into yourself, the higher or farther out you will actually reach. So you can get to this Neptune consciousness internally, and yes, externally via astral projection, actually arrive on the planet and see what's going on there in your own consciousness. And about going deep in your own consciousness, again, this whole thing about chakras and things of that nature is supposed to enhance our light abilities. Ever heard the term, a light worker, things of that nature. If someone reaches the Neptune aspect of their consciousness, they've actually gone very, very deep into the dark spaces of their mind and turned on lights, or i.e. brought the presence of God or the Holy Spirit, things of that nature, into their minds, into places where it was never there, and they begin to search out and see whatever capabilities are present. Just like sending a probe out to the planet Neptune, landing on the surface, and then beginning to see like how Neptune actually works. And so Neptune is actually considered the planet of illusion. This is actually an adaptation from Hebrew cosmology, from the god Shiva. And this particular symbology actually deals with the type of work that must be done internally so that we can make sense out of the illusion of our life and break down the barriers of our consciousness that exist, that are in a present diluted form because we have not gained access to these particular abilities. And when we gain access to these abilities, we draw more and more closer to the limitlessness of ourself, or the limitlessness of the universe, and we erase delusion and make more things into reality. And so the light that actually comes from the planet Neptune, again, is linked to the illusion of the lights that are reflecting on Earth. Again, talking about this whole Earth dynamic and this 3D experience. You know, they talk about 3D, 4D, 5D. Being in a 3D experience, we're actually seeing a refraction, or a fractal of light that is reverberating on a particular wavelength on this orb, to where we are connected to it, and then we are projecting images that fuel everything that we are experiencing, including this interaction that we're having today. And so that's why I always say, you know, I am a mirror of you, because you're literally talking to yourself. I am talking to me as I am talking to you. And I'm just here to remind you of the things that you have already known, because in order to even get to Neptune, you actually have to go back, which means we have been there before. So we're actually reattaching things that were broken as we went into various fractals to get here to the Earth. And so that's why they talk about it's an illusion, you know, the great illusion, or everything is a hologram, because essentially, I mean, it is. But these holograms come with wavelengths of energy that are higher and are lower in frequency, which reverberate the energy at a certain rate, which makes things either more soluble or more solid. And so everything is essentially water, but some things are cooled down, excuse me, and some things are sped up. And so when things are sped up, they are more airy and ethereal, meaning you can't grasp them. But the things that are slowed down, the things we can't grasp. That's why it's important with our thoughts to realize that our thoughts are ethereal. You know, there's a one saying where they're saying, you know, if a surgeon opens up the body, you know, they will never find a chakra, because again, the chakras are the ethereal parts of the endocrine glands of the body. So they'll never see a chakra. But if you cut open a person's mind and see their brain, you'll never see their thoughts. But aren't your thoughts there? And yes, they are there, but they're, so to speak, from the planet Neptune. They're way out in a higher vibrational frequency that is being transmitted from the great macrocosm, the great outside, back to the great inside of the microcosm of yourself. So essentially put it, you are going to the planet Neptune to get a better conscious reality, or a better conscious understanding of your own thought processes. So you have to go very, very deep within inside of yourself to master your thoughts, to get a better connection of what you're thinking at any given moment, to essentially stop the mindless running that goes on when you have no control. Because again, Neptune's so far away, just like your thoughts are so far away, because they won't stop. So getting to Neptune is actually mastery of your own thoughts, because you've gone so far within, you can now think so highly. And so with the planet Neptune, though, it deals with dualism. Again, we have to deal with dualism, because that's how all things are generated, by the friction of masculine and feminine, light and dark, things of that nature, the spark of life. With dealing with this spark, the planet has two sides. The planet Neptune, as in every planet actually, has a light side and a dark side. The light side is essentially as the planet is rotating around the sun. One side of it is facing the sun and the other side is not. Just like here on the planet Earth, we have day and we have night, and they are in balance. At least they balance themselves out as the Earth continues to rotate around the sun. So the same principle is for Neptune. However, when we deal directly with the chakra, directly with this particular consciousness, we have to understand that we can actually get back to this consciousness, or this state of being, via a light path or a dark path, meaning we could do it facing the sun, or we can do it facing the moon. And so dealing with just the dark side really quick, again, the dark side is not necessarily bad, evil, malevolent, things of that nature. It's, again, just the other side that exists, that is necessary to be there. Dealing with the dark side, a lot of people actually get to the place of Neptune where they, burst open the third eye and, start seeing geometric shapes and colors, and, start asking deep philosophical questions about themselves and our life. The easy way, so to speak, are what is known as a jump gate, where you can just kind of skip up the ladder in almost a moment's notice, is by using drugs. Of course, marijuana is always a fan favorite. LSD, acid, ayahuasca, things of that nature. They serve as jump gates that literally send you up the Kundalini ladder almost in an instant, or a 20, 30-minute process. And they'll throw you right on Neptune, and you will start to see things that happen there. Other things are like hypnosis, are going into trance. And again, it's not bad because think about hypnosis. You know, there are actual hypnosis doctors here that exist that hypnotize people into stop smoking. So again, it can be used for positive things. It just needs to be understood that that is a dark side way, which you can kind of get there fast using an easy button. But the flip side of that as well is that it's also can be abused and be a form of escapism. You know, a lot of people, you know, get drugged out because it's so much easier to stay in a trance or to stay drugged out as it is to deal with what's going here on the planet. Like being on Earth is not an easy experience. So, you know, wanting to escape every once in a while is definitely not a bad thing. But if we get attached to the power of drugs and how it can just send us up, we just become worthless. So it's again about finding the balance. It's not about not doing anything. It's about finding the right balance so that we can continue to move and function properly at the highest thought processes we can hold. Just to give like an avocation, you know, a real world one so people can, you know, make sure we get a grip on this thing. Because there are people who do exist who think like drugs are just the scum of the earth. If we think about it for 1 second, Dr. Francis Crick discovered the double helix DNA strand, which is the structure of Kundalini itself, which is the our divine fingerprint, so to speak, that's running throughout our entire body that actually helped make medicine you know, the power that it is today because we actually understand so much more how the body works because we know what DNA is. He was high on LSD. He really saw it when he was high on acid. Steve Jobs, for instance, he conceived the thought of the iPod when he was high on acid. Terrence McKenna, for example, if you ever listen to any of his tapes, you could tell he's one of the most enlightened people that have ever existed. Like, I pale in comparison to that guy. And he was always on drugs. So, again, it's not like saying they're always bad. But, again, that is the route that is on the opposite side of the sun so that you can get there. On the other side, of course, there's the light path. And the light path is essentially just extreme meditation. You know, taking, like, the Buddhist route. Or taking a route of solitude, you know, a vow of silence, you know, being very good about what you do with your body, you know, becoming, you know, a pure raw vegan, you know, things of that nature. Those are light paths towards getting to that same place because even though they are slower, much more methodical, they do so without the delusion aspect. Well, let me not say without delusion, without the direct delusion, meaning you're just thrusted right there. You actually slowly walk up the ladder, but you can still have elements of disconnect from the earth because a lot of people who take those routes, either they become monks and now they are completely stricken away from the world and now they're not sharing the knowledge that they've obtained. They're only using it for themselves. You know, if you take a vow of silence, you can't say anything. So how is anybody going to know what you figured out on planet Neptune? You know, you being a raw vegan, like, in this postmodern context, you're going to spend up all of your freaking money trying to stay healthy because raw vegan food is way more expensive than just going to the grocery store. But again, like I say, it gets you up there, but there's always just pitfalls on the path. No matter which path we take, there's going to be challenges and there's going to be pitfalls. However, we must be diligent in how we choose to walk the path that we take to get to the higher realms of our mind and then also be willing to bring it back. That's always the hard part. We have to bring it back. And so when we get to that light realm of our mind, we should continue to push forth in our imagination, but push forth in our imagination to bring more things into reality. See, quick sidebar real quick, dealing with religion. When regard to imagination, first of all, we have to understand that that's what all of these things are. This whole series that I'm talking to you about, or anything spiritual that I talk to you about, or anything out of a preacher, a shaman, you know, a root worker, or anybody who's any form of, you know, spiritual authority, they will, if they really are enlightened, they will tell you that it's all in the imagination. Now we have to pause here and not say that because it's in the imagination, it is not real or it is not valid. We have to understand that it is the power of our intellect, which actually is the power of the almighty consciousness in and of itself. You know, again, all religions, even if they're closed-minded ones, acknowledge that the almighty is within us. And so that same ability to create, or the same almighty ability of limitlessness, it's literally inside of us, and it can be driven and are directed by our thought processes. And our thought processes are essentially generated by our imagination. Again, like I say, I'm a Christian. I was reared a Christian. And so just in my reflection of, you know, how I used to invoke things or invoke my imagination, I would spend time in a Bible study, things of that nature, and we would intensely go over, like the story of Nehemiah, for instance, about how they had to walk around the city and repair the walls, and we essentially transported to a time in the past, and we had to use our imagination to make vivid images of what we were seeing then, to try to use that and transplant it into how it's going to affect our behavior in the present. Now, again, there's not necessarily anything exclusively bad about that, but generally speaking, with multiple religions, the ones that are exclusive and the ones that make you send your consciousness outward, they put a frame upon your mind by making you mold your unlimited consciousness into a limited form of understanding based on something that happened in an era that doesn't even apply to the one that we're currently living in. It puts an antiquated frame on your mind. You can't even properly deal with what's going on in the culture because your mind is actually running on a system from a culture that is now extinct. And so the main error with that, though, is we put those frames and limits on our mind, like, again, the rules and judgments. Again, rules and judgments actually do need to exist, but not in the form or the exclusive frame that a religion may give us. Within every one of us, in the center of our being, lies beyond the mystery of what the rules, laws, and judgments and limits of our actual being is, i.e. our identity. So inside of ourselves is our identity, meaning our purpose, what we're supposed to be doing. That actually gives us the rules, the guidelines, the prescribed limits that we're supposed to live by, which are not a homogeneous, or a pre-given form or format that we're supposed to live. The code for our life is actually already imprinted upon our identity, imprinted upon our DNA. And so we should spend most of our imagination looking within our own selves as opposed to looking into the past to try to find out what is our rule and authority. And so that's one of the main differences here with many westernized religions in our postmodern context, that we have to be very, very sharp at looking at least I will take a consistent sharp view at, because when dealing with this third eye chakra, many times many people are in a religion and are activating it. However, they're not activating it consciously, meaning they have no idea that they're sending their imagination outside of themselves back to an era that doesn't exist, and using that to box their mind in, as opposed to looking within themselves, deriving their own Merkaba, deriving their own light spirit body into themselves, bringing more light into the body so that they can eventually get back to the crown consciousness, so that they can find out what their rules and limits are for themselves. And so last part of the critique, this particular activation, religious activation, the outside activation, this is actually the same thing as a dark side activation of reaching the planet Neptune. Because again, the religion is actually used as the drug. The religion is used as the jump gate to illuminate the mind, and do so in a diluted form, because the person who's activated the mind in the form of a religion have done it in the form of the hive that has been given. Again, the box, or the frame of the box that they are connected to. And they will literally go all the way to Neptune, receive the box or the frame or the hive that has been planted there on the planet, and bring that back. And then they have to literally go through the process of rearranging their psyche to fit a mold that wasn't even imprinted upon the DNA. That's essentially why you may see with a lot of particular religions, people act according to that religion. Even specifically with that denomination, again, like being exposed to a lot of Christianity, there's a whole bunch of different denominations. And the weird thing about it is, whatever denomination a person is, they act just like the person in that denomination. The way that they talk, the way that they dress, the way that they carry themselves and interact. It's not just, it's very, very devoid of their true individualized personality. All it is a reflection of whatever their pastor was giving them. Same thing could happen, with like Islam, things of that nature. I have a whole aspect of my family that's Islam, and they have a very, very way of demonstrating themselves to the world, which again is like directly tied into that same type of hive mind way of thinking. And again, I'm not completely denigrating it. I'm just simply saying that when you use your third eye and look at things, you will see that there's an element of control that is actually taking place, because someone's mind has been sent out and then been returned back to them in a completely different form, as opposed to being looked in and then transformed from within, which makes them more of a individualized personality, i.e. a free spirit, i.e. a more creative person, i.e. someone people are more drawn and attached to, not because of their righteousness based on the rules of their religion that they lived in, but based on the righteousness and rules of their own heart and their ability to self-actualize. All right, so enough of the externalization critiques. Let's really get back to the good stuff, back to the body, where all of this stuff really takes place inside of our body. Again, this is the imagination center of our body. So this is where our divine encounters are actually seen or interpreted physically. This is the place where we actually feel our spiritual encounters, and then those feelings, those vibrations, they generate the images that we see in our dreams and that we see around us. And this feeling of intuition is actually fueled by our solar plexus, which drives the mind, which helps drive the mind's eye. And when we have our intuition live, we will actually be using our internal solar plexus energy, our internal navigation system, to help move around and navigate according to whatever vibrational frequency that we are resonating. Here, make it simple. Let's just say you were born, a crown chakra being, meaning your favorite color is the color navy blue. You're more of a wisdom-minded type of person. You like learning things all the time, things of that nature. So you're walking in that fractal of light, meaning your whole existence need to be used for fulfilling that or fueling that desire. And then as you continue to get more knowledge, obtain more knowledge, you simply share what you've learned along the way. And you attach more things onto you. And then as you continue to share, it should actually enable you to live. Which is essentially what I'm doing now. I've been fueled by, the passion to share, to gain and share knowledge, and now I'm actually in the process of sharing it, and the ball has now been rolling on my life to finally make some money. And so whatever fractal that you are possibly living in, it's going to be of your best interest to move in that based on your intuition, meaning what are you naturally attached to? What are you naturally attracted to? What vibration seems to be resonating with you the most? And when you start to pursue that via your intuition, your solar plexus, and then move your body according to your solar plexus, your willpower, you will then be able to navigate yourself to Neptune as efficiently as you possibly can, so that you can operate with as much wisdom and authority and focus than you ever had before. And so again, for another symbol, let's say, because again, we're on a ship in a sea of consciousness. The solar plexus is actually the rudder or the sail, and our rudder and our sail, depending on what type of boat that you're in. Most of us start off as sailboats, but then we could actually build ourselves up to become speedboats who've got, rudders and things of that nature and power engines. So our solar plexus again is either the rudder or the sail, and the rudder on the sail is what actually responds to our third eye navigation of the wheel. And so as we continue to walk in our third eye wisdom, seeing what we like, we turn our wheel of consciousness to go towards it. Our solar plexus is what's going to steer. That's what's going to actually switch the navigation, so that when we move through the sea, we are propelled in that direction. And so again, that's why I say it deals with light. It always continues to deal with light. Going back to the solar plexus, again, that's our sun energy, our light sun energy. We can use our solar plexus to send us to places to where we've never been before. So we're actually shining light in the areas of darkness. And again, these areas of darkness, again, are in our mind. And as we continue to do so in our mind and bring it to the earth, we will conversely shine light into places that it has never been on the planet. Meaning we will start enlightening and sharing knowledge and information and services with each other. So this whole light aspect, again, is tied into mythology. Getting into the mythology now, we are dealing with the Hindu. The Hindu mythology has the god Shiva. And Shiva is a part of their Trimurti, or their trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And so Shiva is the one who destroys the illusion of imperfection, which is the darkness, the illusion of imperfection, which is the delusion, the dark side of Neptune, and reveals that all things are perfect and that everything is actually going according to the Almighty's plan, which is the light. Meaning, again, we are the Almighty. It's inside of us. And when we tap into that, our life will start to unfold in the manner that it is supposed to, bringing light into the world. And so Shiva, again, is a dualistic force, or it's the dualistic spark that is the result of the force between Brahma and Vishnu, that are both the good and evil, the man and woman energies that are the frictions that generate existence. And so in this Hindu trinity, we see that it's the merger of spirituality and physicality. Because again, it's that same aforementioned proton, electron, neutron, and everybody continues to have this present. Because again, the Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the destroyer / recreator. So Brahma being creator, that's father. Vishnu being sustainer, that is mother. And as those two things collide, they create a son and or a daughter who is going to continue to create and recreate reality. If we look at it again on a very, very simplistic form, if we look at the earth, when a person has a baby, the baby has a brand new, fresh consciousness that it has not been, diluted, corrupted, or anything. It's completely fresh and new. And as that child goes into his life, it has the ability to create new things or destroy them. But for every one person that comes to this earth that is a destroyer, i.e. the negative force, another baby is born that is actually the positive force. And so it continues to go on, and it continues to go on and go forth. And it actually literally solves one of those ridiculous questions where people say, well, why do bad things happen to good people? God can't exist because if God truly exists, he wouldn't let bad things happen to good people. Well, essentially, bad things happen to good people because good things happen to bad people. And bad things happen to bad people, and good things happen to good people. All things happen to everybody. And so when we really come into the greater expansiveness of this, we will really see that it's all connected and it's all just rolling around and rolling and moving forward in a sense of expansion. And so when we get into the light, meaning the transcendent aspect, where we break free from the dualism and stop focusing on what happened to who and why, and then just be in the form of is, meaning be present, meaning be mindful, meaning be using the highest form of our intellect to think things through in poisonous and in light, we will understand that there's no question to even be asked because all the questions are actually solved if we just lived our life. And so continuing on with the mythology, the whole restore and destroy dualism is actually present even in the Bible. Looking at the Old Testament, we see it in Isaiah 54:16. The scripture says, I have created the blacksmith who fans the coals beneath the forge that makes the weapons of destruction. And I have created the enemies that destroy. And this is in the Old Testament, and this is actually YHVH, or Yahweh, who's actually saying this to Isaiah. And so the deity of the Old Testament is saying, I'm the one who set you free from Egypt, but I'm also now the one who's about to throw you back into slavery and kill a whole bunch of your people at the exact same time. That whole aspect of creating a new society and then destroying the same society is actually present. And for a lot of people, be like, oh, well, that's just the Old Testament. That has nothing to do with Jesus and blah, blah, blah. We see the same thing in the New Testament as well. In Jesus' return in Revelations 21:5, it is written, behold, all things are made new. And in the context of the Revelation story, the Antichrist essentially comes to earth and wreaks havoc upon the whole earth, and right before the earth is completely and utterly destroyed, Jesus comes down and he saves the day, and the whole world is made new. Destruction and recreation is there again. And so these symbols, they come from two totally different groups of people who are not even related to one another, but still came up with the same story, with the same truth. So we have to really understand that the underlying meaning here is not something that is exclusively external when it talks about the destruction of the earth. It's literally talking about the destruction of the ego, destruction of the Yaldabaoth that I talked about in the solar plexus. I'm sorry, in the sacral chakra. Destruction of the delusion. That we are incomplete, that life is broken, that all is lost. We actually have to get into the place where it becomes internal, and then we spark the light into our mind and realize that all things are being recreated. We are being regenerated. It's literally also a bodily principle. Just as we have waste and destruction coming out of our anus when we eat anything, when we breathe in life, breathe in prana energy, it begins the process of regeneration in our body, where every 10 minutes we actually regenerate billions of cells. And so this thing is talking about, one, the regeneration of the galaxy. It's talking about the regeneration of the earth, but it's talking about every time that you actually inhale a breath. So regeneration is taking place every single moment. And so when we get attached to that form of consciousness, that higher thought of thinking, we will eventually see the spark, and then we'll start to see that, you know what, life really isn't as crazy as we think it is. The only reason why it is crazy is because it's due to the error of my own thoughts. So let me get to Neptune, let me get to my crown, my third eye chakra, and start seeing things with my spiritual eye and not my physical one. Another symbol analogy, if we look actually directly to the chakra itself, the symbol of the chakra in and of itself. The symbol has, again, you know, the big circle, it's a petal, the big bulb in the center with two large petals flapping on the outside with the three in the middle, third eye. And so, but the two petals that are on the outside, they represent, again, the two hemispheres of the brain, the male and female aspect, the light and the darkness, the dualistic force. And in the center is the generation of three, the new atom, or the neutron, or the new element of sight. And so again, just as Brahma, Vishnu stand on the side of Shiva, we'll see it on the same thing with Christianity, where Jesus was in the center and he had the two thieves on the side of him when he was crucified. And so Jesus being the centerpiece of the recreation, the embodiment of spirit in the physical form, that is the divine that we can see, which is what the third eye does. We can see spirit in physical form. We break the delusion of saying that the only thing is real is here is what on earth. And so the three actually represents the activation of the third eye. And divine sight is the unison of the two hemispheres of the brain when you finally send light through the corpus callosum, literally through the center part of your brain, through the corpus callosum, and then you start to literally brighten light inside of your head and then send it throughout your whole body, and then you can literally see your insides, literally speaking. And I make this no exaggeration when I say I can, one, see and feel the inside of my brain. Essentially, most people can only feel their head when they're having a headache. I could literally feel the muscles inside of my brain just like I could feel my arm flexing. That is how you know that you've actually turned on the light. When they're talking about healing yourself, things of that nature, you know, people doing Reiki work, things of that nature, these are people who've actually learned to send light inside of their body and can see their internal organs, or at least see where darkness is present, and then shoot light over to that energy and then to that darkness, and then begin to heal it by putting light into it. And this is what happens when we step into the light. We start to heal ourselves because we break free from the division and the separation, and everything comes in together as oneness. And so the one eye, or the single eye, is the third eye, or the new sight, which is the sight of life. And so again, when we activate the third eye, we can just see inside of the body, but then we could actually, see inside of the body, which is the microcosm. We could actually see outside of the body in the macrocosm, meaning when we look with our three eyes, meaning our two eyes can see what's going on the planet, just like you see me on this computer here. When you really turn on the third eye, really do the necessary meditations and necessary protections and things of that nature, you can start to see what is called the grid. And when you see what is called the grid, you can literally see what's going on in the sky. You can literally see that there's much more happening than just the blueness of the sky or the darkness at night with the stars that are present. A really, really good example is if you've ever seen the movie Daredevil. There's the one scene, I believe it's Ben Affleck, the one scene where, you know, he gets the acid dropped on his eyes and then he has the surgery. When he wakes up, though, and he takes off the veil is removed from his eyes, he instantly starts to see through walls. But because it's the first time he saw it, he saw through a wall, then a person, then another wall, then a car, and it went on for like 16 blocks, and he could see all things at the exact same time. It almost drove him mad. Another example of a movie that maybe more people have seen is, again, The Matrix, the first Matrix. When Neo finally realized that he is the one, just like we are supposed to realize that we are the one and we connect with all things, he started to see the grid, the green digit code that was fueling all of that particular existence, that particular matrix. When we awaken our third eye, we literally can see that at the exact same time. And so the type of things that we'll see actually are, again, the same things that we'll see which inside of our body. We'll see the outside of what's going on inside of the body. Inside of the body, like I said before, we can see our veins and see the blood flowing through our veins. We can see what is called ley lines. We can see the spiritual ley lines of the earth and in the sky, meaning where spiritual traffic waves are taking place, where we can literally see waves and moves of energy being transported to and fro. A primary example of that in the Bible is actually talking about the traffic way of Kundalini is Jacob's ladder. In that scripture, it talks about, I see angels ascending and descending from the heavens. Jacob was talking about how he could see with a third eye, the sky open up and energy going up and down it. Just like inside of our body, the Kundalini rises and goes in and up. Just like our emotions go up and down. And so this same dualism, again, that same traffic way, begins to just open up, and we really start to see how it's all connected, because it's the same thing that is layered on multiple hyperdimensional layers. And so dealing with this, when we actually gain this capability, we break through, from what is called like you're asleep. That's a very, very popular postmodern colloquialism. Big words there. Basically, it's slang. They always say, "Oh, you sleep." Conscious folk are always looking at religious and be like, "Oh, y'all asleep." Our political activists are looking at people who don't do anything and they say, "You're asleep." Essentially, asleep has much more to do with your ability to understand, what party is actually, bringing more hurt to the earth, or what religion is actually bringing the most disillusionment to the planet. This asleep thing is actually talking about your ability to connect the realms. When we're talking about you're asleep, we're talking about, again, the dream world and this world that we're seeing here. When we fall asleep and we go into REM, we travel, we literally start to connect to another phase of consciousness. Our brain waves switch waves when we are asleep, because due to our lowered breathing patterns and the lesser movement of blood through our systems, we connect to theta waves. And in our theta waves, again, that whole wavelength thing, when we connect the theta waves, we actually leave out of the 3D where we're in, and we transition into the 4. And so when we transition into the 4, we are literally in a place to where we're one step closer to our original spiritual home, where things are much more soluble, where things are much more fluid, where we can make things happen in an instant. That's why our dreams are like going a mile a minute. That's why there's so much weird things happening in our dreams. Like, what is going on here? Why are things so ridiculous or out of control or out of whack? And the main reason, though, why they're out of whack is because you're still asleep, meaning you have not turned on, activated, awoken the third eye and gain conscious control over it, and then take that same light energy that you can use while you're literally awake, walking around in this realm, and take it with you into REM. Meaning when you go to sleep, you realize that there is no sleep. You realize that there is no rest, so to speak. There's rest for the body, but the spirit is everlasting. It keeps on going and going and going. But where is it gone to? It goes to a different realm. And so when you are literally awake, you have that same conscious remembrance and that same control over your Merkaba steering wheel, and you take that with you into REM, into the 4th dimension, meaning you are awake in those same dreams. And so as you are awake in those same dreams, this is how you can actually begin the process of taking more control over your life. Because again, it's been widely accepted that, when we're in our dream state and we see our dreams, that's our subconscious trying to, work out the things that is going on in our life. Well, that is actually correct. And so when we, again, have no conscious control over that, are asleep, and we have, a nightmare, for instance. That nightmare that we're having is literally some encounter that is actually taking place on another realm. And so because we are ignorant to our particular energy or ignorant to our control, we're just letting whatever happens. And that same thing will transfer right here into our life, meaning we become a victim of fate, meaning whatever we believe has been prophesied over our life, whatever we believe is supposed to just, they said that's going to happen, so that's just what it's going to be. That is what will take place with us. We have no more control over what we're doing with our life. But on the flip side, when we are awake and we take this same awareness, conscious awareness into our dreams, when we awake in the dream, we be like, wait a minute. this place is out of whack. Why are my dreams so ridiculously crazy? Why am I seeing things that make no sense? We will take that same questioning ability, that same analytic ability that we have here while we're quote unquote awake on the earth, and we'll take that into the dream. And being in a fourth dimensional realm, we will have so much more control that we can literally instantaneously rearrange things and move them. Here's a prime example. I remember when I was younger, before I really had conscious awareness of what I was doing, I would always have this recurring dream where I was dropped into a world where I could just manifest wherever I wanted. I was a huge car head. I love nice cars and nice things. And so again, I'm a teenager, so I can't drive a Benz. I don't even have a driver's license or anything like that. Nor can I afford one. But in the dream, I was driving a CL 600. Literally, I just walked into the dealership, took the keys, got in the car transformed into the color that I wanted to with the interior and everything, and I was out. Boom. The moment I got bored, I literally hopped out of it, and next thing you know, I'm in a Range Rover. Boom. As soon as I get bored with that, I go to the grocery store, go into the meat section, it's a piece of raw meat, but then I just kind of wave my hand over it, and it's a deluxe sandwich. Boom, and I'm eating. And so, as a kid, I didn't even realize what I was working with. And so, because I was doing that, though, my life resembled that. My mom bought a Mercedes. Again, living in my mom's house, she always cooked the food that I wanted. And so that's why we have to get back to what is called that childlike mentality. Again, they talk about that a lot in Christianity. And again, it's been externalized to say we're supposed to bow ourselves down and, be like, oh, I'm a child, I don't know anything. No, you're supposed to return to the childlike ability where you go into your dreams and you're like, yo, I can do that. I have no limits. There's no fear. Why can I not do this? And so when we begin to deconstruct the delusion of fear, the dark side of our mind, the dark side of Neptune, and bring the light side of Neptune into our dreams, we will regain this same manifesting ability on the fourth dimension. Well, we rearrange and make our life the way that we want, and then we can transition that into this one, meaning we will empower ourselves and we will have much more confidence to go and get what we want to get. And we will also have the intellectual capabilities to do so because we've already thought about it on a higher state of consciousness. And then when we bring it down, we will already know how to run into the right places based on how we are resonating in our vibrational frequency. We will start to walk in what is called the favor of God because we're walking in our lane. And when we're in our lane, there's no opposition. There's no competition. There's nobody blocking our way. And everything that we desire to have that is truly meant for us on our walk, it will come to us right when it is supposed to. And the key is to get back to that state where we are in control of our dreams and making what we want in the dream world and then transferring it over here into the real world. And so again, practically, how does that happen? We got to, again, take that same trinity and bring it into manifestation. So when walking in our vibrational frequency, either, like I say, our lifestyle, the type of things that we want to work and do, we have to get cursory knowledge, which is school knowledge. We have to understand the culture that we're living in, understand cultural phenomena, and then we have to understand the spiritual formation that we're involved in. All of us have a form of spiritual foundation, whether it is a particular religion that you're tied to, or whether it's a form of agnosticism or atheism. Wherever you start with, that is the foundation that you must work with. That's why, again, I always give you Christian scriptures because I know them so much, but I know not to be bound by what the rules of the book are and let it rule over my head. I use it to stand on. It's under me. And so whatever frame of reference that you come from, you stand on that and use that as your trajectory so that you can shoot off on your ship and you can send your life off in the direction that you're supposed to go in. And you do not let your foundation hold you back. You let your foundation be the inspiration for your direction. And so you take those three elements to bring your life together. Again, negative, positive, neutron, and then you begin to create whatever it is that you have desired to do. And so when you go through that process, you have then begin to bridge that gap. Again, the Trinity becomes present. The upward Trinity, by doing it again in the higher realms, by you reaching up in your dreams and taking conscious control of that. You then do it based on your personal responsibility of technical expertise on the earth. Then you directly influence it based on your spiritual energy. And then you bridge it together by the work that you are now doing. You have now literally taken the Merkaba and made it real. The dream world of making your own dreams, and then the real world of bringing it into manifestation. And then you become again the 9, the Fibonacci. And so, yes, bringing the unison though into these realms is exceptionally difficult. That's the issue. We do, and on top of that, we live into a culture what is called bifurcated, or the bifurcation of reality, where we actually do not seek to unify the two realms. We actually seek to divide them, to keep them divided. That's why all of our major religions are divided religions. People will say, oh, my religion is a religion of love, but then talk about a different God, and they be like, oh no, that God is not real, that God is not legit. I cannot commune with you anymore. It is division, as well as in our educational processes. If most of us have gone through public school, we learn just a myriad of random stuff that essentially, yeah, serves as a foundation. But by the time we get a job, we're not using any of it. Our mind has just been given a bunch of random facts as opposed to helping us understand who and what we are, and then putting us in that mode of knowledge so that we could bring it all together and make sense of our lives. And so this division that we're always experiencing, always taking place, makes it hard to merge the two realms, because if you come from any particular foundation, so to speak, they'll use that same foundation against you to say one aspect doesn't even exist, or it exists in some limited form. And so again, we have to bridge it all together, use the higher intellectual capabilities of our mind to make sure that we master it all and merge it all together and make all things new for our lives. And so again, back to the body, back to the body. When we begin to demonstrate our ability to master these two realms, we will be doing what is called letting our light shine. That's a very common, spiritual, slang, our spiritual truth that is generally present in darn near everything. Even in the dark religions, they talk about, the light, things of that nature. When you, again, start to manifest things, when you start to simply just make your life a testimony, by showing people that you have the ability to make things happen, you are literally now taking that light that was in your mind, i.e. an idea, i.e. a dream, i.e. a vision that you saw in the ethereal realms that nobody else can see, and you did the work of bringing it into this earth. And so when you do that, people will become more attracted. Again, law of attraction, the whole magnetics, the whole vibrations. People will be more attracted to you, and then they will want to be inspired by what you did. And then you are now transferring light into the world, and you're starting the process of regeneration for somebody else, the process of recreation for somebody else, the process of merging the light and the darkness together, because you have turned on a spark. You've turned on a light bulb in their formerly dark mind and got them on the process of starting to make light themselves. And so again, we have to do this by facing the delusion. We have to face the delusion, meaning we have to realize that yes, darkness exists, and then one darkness exists. Two, darkness is actually not bad, but three, we're supposed to bring light into that darkness. And again, it goes back into our dreams, and it goes back to the whole principle of sleep and the principle of death, because again, death does not actually exist, but in the delusion form, we believe that it does. And this whole delusion, again, is tied to our sleep. Here it is again in Corinthians 15:31. For I swear, dear brothers and sisters, I face death daily. This is as certain as my pride in what the Lord Jesus Christ has done in you. Now, again, we're not going to externalize and make this whole Lord Jesus coming down, save me thing. But it's the realization of the lordship that you have over your own life. And that whole I face death daily is actually one talking about the checking of the ego externally. Like, do I have all my systems in check? Am I properly aligned? Before I move out into the world, let me make sure that my consciousness is awake. My consciousness is aligned to the light. But also, again, with the whole principle of sleep, when you go into REM, your bloodstream is so low, you're right next to death, literally speaking. And we look at it again on the outside, it talks about the principle of family. Outside of your original state of family, your mother, father, sister, brother, what is the next layer that is beside that? Your cousin. So sleep is the cousin of death. Our culture, again, our secular culture is again just mirroring the same things that have been always understood. But when we look at it from the third eye, we'll see that the same message is being bounced off everywhere. And so again, the same authentic experience is to face the delusion of death, realize that we don't die, and then jump over to see what is on the opposite side, and then start getting those answers so that we can get the answers on the side to which we are consciously aware. And so again, back to another mythological form. We got to deal with Egypt real quick. Talking about the Corpus Calypsum, that is the pineal bridge, and this pineal bridge is the Eye of Horus. You know, the Eye of Horus, the all-seeing eye. Whoa, that they talk about, and they say all Illuminati and things of that nature. The all-seeing eye has been in existence way before any type of cascading, one world government has even thought of, for one. So like, we really need to just dismantle that and sidestep that altogether. Yes, it exists for the fear of people, but the origins is what is about our own personal empowerment and not something that should be used against us in fear. But this all-seeing eye, again, is talking about this light capability where we flash our light into our own selves and see that we have light inside of our body, and then we begin to operate from that awareness. And so we have the all-seeing light, or the all-seeing eye, because when we are consciously aware, again, in our Merkaba, we see what is going on in the spiritual realms while we're quote-unquote awake, but then we see it again when we are asleep in the dark side of our mind. And so when we take that light into the dark side of our mind, we put lights around us, and we can see what's going on in the dark. And so when we can see what's on in the dark, we have no reason to fear because we know what is actually coming now. And then once we really understand it, we will know whatever is coming is not going to destroy us. It can't, because we are indestructible. We are the Almighty who lives forever. And so we have to master mindfulness. And when we master mindfulness, looking within inside ourselves and being poised no matter whatever the situation is, by being back in touch with the light, we will operate from that third eye capability that they keep speaking of. And even if we don't, let's say, get to the state where we can see the waves of consciousness that do exist, we will at least be able to see the waves and flows and patterns of our lives. And so we have to begin to really see that. And so again, just for one last dose of, intergalactic coolness, being able to see the waves can actually be a very frightening and disorienting experience. A lot of people who have to awaken their third eye legitimately, they will tell you that first time seeing it is like, it's a doozy, man. Like, it's not a game. Like, it's not a game whatsoever. It will scare the crap out of you. Again, it goes back to, like I say, the whole sacrifice of Yaldabaoth lesson where Neo tried to jump over the building for the first time and then he just freaking just crashed to the ground. That's essentially what happens to a lot of us when we see the hyperdimensionality of things. We see the matrix, because essentially when we see the matrix, we will see that waves of energy are flowing in forms that are way beyond comprehension. Like, I can tell you how like vast it is on the span of like a planet, so to speak, but literally seeing it, there's no words for how vast and ridiculously big it is. Like, just imagine a comet bigger than the planet Earth flying right by outside of your window. Like, imagine the sun crashing down onto the earth. Like, imagine, I don't know, the biggest mountain that you've seen literally just sprout right up into your living room. But again, it does so without destroying the living room. It does so without like anything moving. You just see it move instantaneously all at once. Even with these descriptions that I'm trying to give, they don't even compare to seeing how everything is moving all at the same time. And so, again, it can be so frightening and disorienting because when you really see it, when you really come to grips with it, you'll see that, again, it's a sea. We're actually in a sea. We're swimming. And so we have, again, this illusion that we're in where we're standing and we're on solid ground. But when we look up, we'll see waves cascading over us. And then if we dare to look down, we will see that there's no floor. And then when we see that there's no floor, we can begin to sink. Because of the fear that we have. We can start to go down in our consciousness, down in the sea of consciousness, because that former delusion of the support system we thought we had is no longer present. And so then we have to now fend for ourselves. And see, and that's why the big thing about this whole thing with religion versus consciousness, where, they always say, religion, you need religion because it keeps you protected from all the stuff that's out there. Don't go into the gnosis, things of that nature. An element that is actually correct. Because if you have no knowledge on how to deal with spirituality, again, not religion, if you have no idea how to really, really deal with spirituality, really, really deal with conscious engagement, you can, one, think yourself into oblivion, but two, you could kill yourself based on fear. Because it is hype, it is super disorienting, and you can get confused and lost in your mind. And that's what they call the Jerusalem effect. You ever been in the city, and you see some crazy man just like, hey, just going crazy in the street, just talking to everybody or talking to nobody that's even there. That's a person who opened up that third eye some kind of way and then completely went bonkers because he realized that there's nothing really real. However, he forgot to bridge the gap and realize that you still got to help. You still got to keep a grasp on this reality that we are projecting ourselves on right now. And so, again, everything that I said prior to this moment will keep us mindful of how to keep our projections correct based on our will and our vibration so we can master our identity. And so, for the last part, here's an example of what it's like to use the third eye for projection. Imagine having $1 million in the bank. If you just close your eyes and look in your mind's eye, you walk up to that ATM, you put the card in, put your code in, you'll see, bang, $1 million. Or you see somebody hand you a check with your name on it, bang, $1 million. In your mind's eye, you can see it. It's right there. It's right in front of you. You see the ones, the zeros, and the commas, and you can see that big, giant Kool-Aid smile on your face. Now, when you take that, you have now shown a light into your mind of a particular aspect of your life, aspect of your consciousness that actually exists somewhere. It literally exists in this your consciousness somewhere. And now you can go through the process of bridging that gap. You can go through the process of steering your light energy towards that $1 million that you just saw in your mind that nobody else sees and then manifested here on the earth. And so the problem, though, is once you really start to realize, meaning now you take your third eye intellectual capabilities and root it into the earth, your root chakra, so then you begin to construct and write a real world plan, a methodical plan based on how you're going to get it. Using, again, the sacral chakra, your passion energy. How are you going to use that tantric energy to generate your body? And then use your willpower of the solar plexus. How are you going to continue to work to do it? Are you going to tie into the energy of love, which is the only way that could actually come to pass? And then speak the right words of encouragement via the throat chakra to help elucidate and remind yourself what you saw in your mind via the third eye. Do that whole process. Again, I didn't even bring it to the crown. Again, tying to the crown chakra so that you could actually have the light energy and the guidance and essentially run on the proper rails of your existence to get to it. Are you going to do all of that work to go make it happen? And so again, if you see it again in your mind, say, okay, I want $1 million, and then you start to realize what it's going to take to go get it, you can get extremely discouraged because then you're going to realize you're going to have to go through so many waves of energy. You're going to have to give so much of yourself to get it. You're going to have to go through so many highs and lows to where you can be like, yeah, I don't want that. And so you could, again, just reel it back in and say, nah, I don't want that. Or you can dilute your own consciousness, lower your vibrational frequency due to fear or the perception or the delusion of lack of success. And then you could push yourself even further away from that and then push yourself further away from your current state of existence. And so again, the choice is always yours. You could always imagine in your mind's eye whatever it is that you want. You just have to go through the work of manifesting it here by shining that light into your mind, into your consciousness, and the other aspects of your body to generate enough energy to go make it happen in this reality that we're in now. And so again, we have to meditate to center ourselves in whatever form of light that we want to be in. We have to realize that we have the ability to control our own lives based on our Neptune connection, based on our ability to look deep within ourselves to see the furthest reaches of our mind and turn that light on and see what's shining out there so we could shine here at the brightest light ever. And so when we operate from this renewed state of mind, this renewed state of consciousness, we will have the aligned vision, the divine sight, the divine awareness to operate in the right direction to make our life real for everyone to see. And so again, take that sober assessment, write it down, see your vision, make it plain, and go get it. This is The Third Eye. I am Ahmad Brown. Peace.